All right, everyone, let's go ahead and do this. This is chapter 8, homework number 7. Right? This is rewrite each function g of x. So they're all going to be g of x. And we want to rewrite it into terms of the basic function f of x. So number one's already done for you, but look at number 2. See how g of x is equal to x minus 7, which is fine. But we want to write it in terms of f of x, meaning that if we see an x, we want to write it as f of x. That's the idea. So instead of x, we're going to say g of x is equal to, and again, instead of x, it's f of x. So it's going to be f of x minus 7, just like that. Okay, same thing. Instead of x, we're going to write it as f of x. So it'll be g of x equals f of x, and that will be minus 8. Okay, so now we're switching around. So instead of 3x, or 3 to the x power, right? Instead of 3 to the x power, we're going to write down f of x instead. Right? So if it's g of x is equal to 3 to the x power plus 1, remember, instead of 3 to the x, we're going to write f of x. So this is going to be equal to f of x plus 1. Right? Instead of 3 to the x, we're going to write as f of x. So this is going to be equal to f of x plus 2. Instead of 4 to the x, right? And this one says 4 to the x. This one's a little different from the last one, but if we see 4 to the x power, we can say 4 to the x power is the same, that's equal to f of x. So if I see 4 to the x, I'm going to write it as equals f of x, and then minus 6. Okay? And that's pretty much it. Number 7, represent each vertical translation g of x using coordinate notation. Again, number 7 is done for us. Right? So this one's going to be, and these are all going to be the y values. These are going to be a vertical translation. So this one's going to be, here, I'll use this. This one's going to be xy for f of x, and that's going to turn into x is the same, but the y is going to be added to 9. So it's going to be plus 9. Just like that. Okay. Again, number 9. It's going to be xy. That's going to turn into, and this one, the y is going to be, and this is, the y is going to be subtracted by 4. So it's going to be x, comma, and then y, and then we're going to put minus 4. Just like that, because, remember, because, oops, wrong one. Because the function f of x is subtracted by 4. So if f of x is just x, then g of x is whatever that is, and then we're going to minus 4. Okay, same thing down here. So if f of x is x, y, then g of x is going to be x, and then all we're doing here is we're doing minus 1. That's going to be a minus 1. And close that off. Oh, sorry, not minus 1. I wrote that wrong. Sorry, guys. That'll be x, and then comma, and then be y. Sorry, minus 1. Like that. Okay. So again, f of x has an x and a y. That's the coordinate notation. So 4 to x, that means that the function itself is being added to 6. So the x would stay the same, but the y, you would get a plus 6. Okay. And the f of x is x and y. By coordinate notation, what's going on is that we're taking the function itself, the f of x function. So copy the same thing, but the f of x function, we're going to be taking, see how these are the same? So that's basically f of x. And what we're going to do to it is we're going to go ahead and we're going to subtract 5 from the function, which means it's going to be subtracted from the y value. Okay, that's pretty much it. If you do a couple hundred of those, you'll get used to it. All right. Each coordinate plane below shows the graph of f of x. Sketch the graph of g of x. Okay, again, 31 is done for you. You can take a look at that. All right, so this one, the graph of g of x is f of x, and that's f of x right here. So this is the one f of x right here. And g of x is the same as f of x, but except it's subtracting 4. So you notice g of x is going to be, and I'm putting a couple of points on it just to help me out. So right there. And whatever's happening to it, it's going to be subtracting by 4, meaning the y value is subtracting by 4, which means I'm actually losing 4. So if I'm right here, then I'm actually going to be down. If I'm at 0, 1, then I'm actually going to be at 0, negative 3. And this one's going to be at 0, or sorry, 1, negative 2. Okay, and then this is how my graph is going to go. Okay, and that is going to be my g of x. Okay, because each point gets or loses or goes down by 4. So if I just use those 2 points, you see how this works. Okay, and if I did that, my asymptote, my horizontal asymptote, it would go down by 4 as well. Okay. So 33. So you have the graph of f of x, which is right there. I'm going to label it f of x. I'm going to actually, again, I'm going to put a couple points that I know, like right here and here. I'm looking for good points, like, okay, maybe even right here. You see that? And maybe even right here. You see how that works? So my graph of g of x is going to be whatever f of x is, but minus 2 from the y, because it shows minus 2. That means that it's going to be on the y-axis. So I'm going to go down. So this one's going to go down 2. This one's going to go down 2. This one's going to be down 2. This one's going to be down 2. Right, and this one, you see how it comes down 1 block and then goes all the way over there? So I'm going to do the same thing. So it's just going to come down all the way over there. That's my g of x. Okay, this one's pretty funky. This is the graph of f of x. And what it says, it's going to be added to 5. So again, I'm going to pick some points. Maybe like this point and this point, and maybe this point and this point, and maybe this point, right? So just a couple of points just to kind of help me figure out the drawing. And a couple of these, I picked the points on the corner. That helps me. Right? And this is f of x. G of x is f of x, which is what I have right here, plus 5. So each of these points is going to go vertically up 5 on the y. 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be right there, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. And I pick these corners because it helps me draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it gives me a better accuracy. So my graph is going to look something like this. So to that point, see how it's at the same point? I'm going to go down. And then see, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go across. That's my graph of g of x. Okay. Last 4. So the first one's done for you, 39. Basically, you take that function f of x and you translate it up 2 units. So that means that it's going to be behind it. So plus 2. Okay. G of x. Vertical translation down 5. So that's going to be equal to the same as f of x. So it'll be just x, but it's going to be minus 5. Okay. Just a side note, we can also put this as f of x minus 5. And that would also work. Okay. But it looks like the example that they did for us is using the x and not the f of x. Okay, so we'll just do either one. Okay, we'll just do the original one. All right, this one down here, vertical translation down 5. So g of x is going to be 3 to the x, but then it's going to be minus 5. Okay, and again, if you want, you can use the f of x notation, but I'm not going to do it in this case. Okay. All right, so this is g of x. Ooh, horizontal translation up 3 units. Okay, I think that's wrong. Horizontal cannot be up 3 units. Okay. So this should be 4 to the x, and this is going to be plus 3. Okay. The word should be vertical. If it's up, it's definitely the word vertical. Okay. If they want it horizontal, then that means that it should not say up. It should say right. Okay. So it's 3 units by itself means that it's going to be um, wanting to go to the right. So if that's the case, then that means that this wouldn't be the answer. If it's horizontal translation right 3, then our function is going to look like this. It's going to be g of x equals 4, and then instead of x, it's going to be x minus 3 because we want it to go to the right. And that would be a horizontal translation of right 3. Okay? Either way is fine. Okay, you can do horizontal translation right 3 units, like how I have here, and that'd be the end of it. Or you can do vertical translation up 3 units, and that would be this. Okay, so either way is fine. I'm good either way. Definitely a typo. All right, I'll see you guys.